Hey everybody, welcome back to Dental Unfiltered. I'm Matt Brown. I'm here with my normal co-host, Dr. Andrew Vallo. By the time this came out, the year would have clicked over and we're going to start planning goals for the new year. And this episode's about end of year goals. And me and Andrew both are goal oriented, kind of target focused guys. And we've both been working a lot of personal goals and a lot of business goals. I think people sometimes need some focusness. I know that both Andrew, my business partner, Ryan Raybold, a lot of people always refocus me on my goals, and I do the same for them. I think having goal oriented or people around you make this really easier. Most people in my world are kind of wired that way, and I feel like a lot of people aren't. So sometimes the people in your orbit aren't there to reinforce kind of the same behaviors you're trying to strive for yourself. And hitting end of year goals is really important on a business and personal level because they kind of overflow on each other. So we wanted to do an episode about this, especially with the new year clicking over and us being at that point. So being goal oriented. So Andrew, this was your idea to do this episode, and we both just did a goal where we both together meet. Actually, so for the audience, we talked about this on one episode about carnivore. Me, Andrew Vallo, and Ryan Raybold, who's the other co-founder of Energize, all kind of did. Ryan was a little bit behind us; he had some stuff going on, but all three of us did carnivore. We all had a goal of 30 pounds. Andrew lost his 30 in 30 days. That was his goal. My goal was 30 in 90 days. I had neck surgery and some other stuff hindering me. I actually did 37 in less than 90 days. And I think Ryan's just getting ready to hit 30 right now. He did 30, I think, in like 45 days maybe. But, there's a commitment level to that. So Andrew, tell me a little bit about your feelings about setting goals and then hitting those end of year goals.
Goals obviously are important in all aspects of life. We're going to focus a little bit more on business goals, dental office type goals today. But I think, one of the first things I want to talk about is just consistency. So I think a lot of times we have, the situation where we will feel a sense of motivation, like a little flame that kind of comes on, especially early in a goal. Like you get in your mind, I'm going to do this. And like right at the beginning, it's like the New Year's resolutions. Right at the beginning, you get super into it. You're super motivated. You're just like giving it 110%. And then things kind of start to slowly fade. I feel like it gets cyclical too, where sometimes things fade and then you pick back up and then they fade again and they pick back up. And then sometimes when we have like time goals where it's like we want to hit X by the end of the year, we want to do X production or we want to do X Invisalign cases to hit this status, which is something we're actually working on right now. You maybe kind of forget about it for a while. Then all of a sudden at the end, you kind of give it this final push. And so I think like the first thing that I, just want to talk about is like, how do we stay consistent with our goals? How do we start off motivated? How do we remain motivated throughout? And then as we get near the end, how do we like give it that final push when you're out of, energy? Like it's the analogy of, there's 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter of a football game and, you've been running all day and you're just panting and you're sweating. Like, how do you reach deep and how do you finish?
Yeah, where do you find that intestinal fortitude?
Yes. That grit, one of our core values. So I think there's a couple different, methods to this, but I think, one of the most important things is from the very beginning, you're intentional with your goal setting. You want to set realistic goals, but at the same time, you don't want to sell yourself short. So like for our dental offices, every year we want to grow. And every year we set growth goals that I think some of my team, feels like are a little too lofty. I know deep down they're attainable. I'm not setting goals like we're going to double our revenue this year. Now, as an organization, we almost did double our revenue this year, but that's a little bit different. Like inter office, per office, unless you're a brand new startup, it's tough to double your revenue in a year. But I mean, I think a growth goal of 15%, maybe 20%, those are reasonable, attainable numbers that you should definitely be striving for. Don't set some goal of we're only going to do, 3% better than last year or 5%. Don't just try to keep up with inflation. So I think first is like, how are you setting this goal? Is it reasonable and attainable, but is it big enough that it is actually going to move the needle for you? Putting a timeline on it. So again, as Matt mentioned, with the carnivore diet, I had said, I'm going to lose 30 pounds in 30 days. And so while Matt, wanted to go for a little bit lengthier approach, in my mind, I knew that the month of September was the first month basically of the year, I think, that I had no travel plans. You know, I had no big events to go to or anything like that, really. So I was like, this is the month where I can dedicate 110%. I'm going to go full blown carnivore. I'm going to be really good about hitting all my workouts every day, doing second cardio workouts, whatever it is. And in this 30 days, my focus is I'm going to hit this goal of losing 30 pounds. So you've got to set a timeline on it so that, you know, it kind of keeps you honest and you know kind of how much effort you have to give it to hit that goal in that timeline. And then I think the goal, you've got to know why the goal is important to you too. You know, I think sometimes we set goals just for the sake of setting goals. You know, someone says, hey, my goal this year is I want my office to collect $2 million. And you say like, okay, well, like, why is that your goal? And so you've got to think about like, what impact is that going to have on your practice, on your life, on your team? Is it going to allow you to, you know, hire another team member? Is it going to allow you to bring on that next associate, which is going to allow you to cut down your days and have some more free time? So you've got to think about the why behind the goals as well. So I think all of that's important. You've got to plan early. If it's a year-long goal, you know, like our production goals or a 6-month goal for an Invisalign status, you can't set the goal halfway through. You know, you've got to really from the very beginning be working towards it, or you're going to have a much bigger uphill climb. That's kind of the big picture. And I think, you know, Matt, I'll get your takes on that, but I also want to get into a little more focus on how we finish the year strong. And I know this is kind of coming in January, but this will be some good input for you guys for next year as well, because that's where I'm at right now. You know, we have been working hard all year at all of the practices, and we are trying to finish the year strong to hit as many of our goals as possible.
I think with goals, there's like 2 failure points that really need to be analyzed. I think one is the foundation of, did you pick the right goal? Was the timing right? Did you actually set it and commit to it? So I think the initial commitment is like I think the initial commitment is the critical one. So if I had to rank kind of like how goals fail, I think a good start with a solid commitment is number 1. Right? Like I wanted to lose weight this whole year, had a lot going on. And then you were talking about carnivore. My buddy Nick was, me and Ryan were talking about losing weight together. There's a lot of things going on. Ryan came to me with a way to motivate me to do it. You were doing it. It kind of like the perfect storm collided. And it was conditions right. Like I'm going to commit. I'm doing this. Right. So then the commitment is the critical part, right? Like really commit to it. Right. And I think the next part is like somewhere between 60 and 100%. There's a quitting point, right? So, you know, I did a lot of really hard things in the military. A lot of things where like 90% of people don't make it, don't fail. They fail, right? I remember one day I was on a run, and the pace of the run, I'm not a runner. Like I'm not. Like I'm a big dude. I don't run. And you put a heavy backpack on my back and tell me to ruck over 3 mountains back when I had 2 legs. Yeah, no problem. I'll carry 100 pounds over 2 mountains. I'm designed for that. I'm not designed for running. I remember I was running and I was throwing up on the run. And the instructor was alongside me. Like, dude, just quit, bro. Just quit. You can stop the pain. Just quit. There's food over there. It'll be warm. Just quit. You have to recognize, and this goes back to what we talked about earlier in the last recording, the pain that comes after the quitting. And the internal turmoil and the disappointment in yourself is way worse than the pain you're going through in the moment that's temporary. Like, you just got to push through it, man. Just push through it. Like, it's going to end, right? The pain is going to end. It will. Just push through it. And you'll be happy. And forget the monetary reward. Forget whatever the number is on the scale. The internal, like, reward of I actually did it becomes habit forming. And if you have a habit of quitting in that 60 to 100% done window, that will fester and become something that holds you back the rest of your life. When you're dead, when you're dying, you're going to look back and be like, man, I wish I never quit those things. Right? Take it from somebody who 2 parachute accidents, 1 landed me with a double fractured back, a coma, 2 brain injuries, and hernia disc in my neck. I mean, my body's pretty crushed. Then bone cancer, then losing my leg. I'm 3-0 with God. That's a winning streak, right? Like, been 3 pretty solid attempts on my life. And you don't want the regret. So just go after the goal, right? And there really is 2 windows of failure. The first window is you never commit to do it, which means you never create the opportunity for yourself. And that's the only opportunity that you create for yourself is that first one. Yeah. The second one is somewhere between 60 and 100%. Everyone fails. And just choose not to be that person. Just make it habit forming. And I think a lot of it is, I was leaving for the military. To be clear to everybody, I was not a tough guy before the military. I was like scared of my own shadow. I was kind of pushed around a lot. I was kind of meek. I was really fat. I was like over 300 pounds. And my cousins, we were all the same age. And we were out to dinner the night before I was leaving for the military. My cousin Dale, a really good guy, sits down and goes, "Hey man, if you don't make it and you quit, none of us are ever going to say anything about it. You can come back home." And I was like, I'm not quitting. And at the time, I was actually over 300 pounds anymore. I went and found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I lost weight. I had the confidence I built up at that point. I made a goal to get in shape and lose weight. Then I went to join the military. And I remember when I was on runs, I was like, I'm not going home without my airborne wings, without my tab, whatever I was going after. I'm not going home without it, because everyone home thinks that what I'm trying to do is impossible for me. Right? You have to find that intestinal fortitude. It's like, I'm a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter. I'm a black belt. I competed for years. And I've been there where it's 30 seconds left in the match, and I'm down by 6 points. And it's like 8-2. And this guy has dominated me. And if I can sweep him, get on top of him, and choke him, I can pull a win out. And somehow, with 30 seconds left, I would pull a win out. So when I started training all the time for competition, I would let people dominate me for 5.5 minutes of a 6-minute round. And I would put the pressure on myself. Now you have 6 minutes to save yourself. Can you do it? And putting the pressure on yourself of the performance and taking control of your own destiny and making that a habit and facing it will allow you to get through that 60% to 100% failure point that everyone fails in.
And I think you brought up a good point too, where, one of the first failures a lot of us, have is just not even taking the opportunity to begin with. And that's something we talk about a lot with, dentist scarcity mindset, just trying to break free of that. I want to talk about some of these specific end of year goals that we're working on. One of the goals for us that, resets every 6 months is hitting our Invisalign status goal. So basically, since I opened my first practice, 3.5 years ago, and that was essentially when I started doing Invisalign, every 6 months we are either maintaining or growing to the next status. So we've never gone backwards in Invisalign status. I think the first time we were like silver plus or gold or something like that. And we worked up, through platinum and platinum plus and diamond plus. And then the last 6 months, the first 6 months of 2024, we hit Diamond Pro. And so the only statuses, above us at that point are the newer blue diamond tiers, which is on our horizon here. But anyways, we hit Diamond Pro the first 6 months of 2024. And so, when we go into the second 6 months, our goal is we are going to at least maintain that status. And it's hard. That is a lot of Invisalign for GP offices to do. At this point, we've got the two. We're about to have more than 2 GP offices, but we had 2 GP offices. One was, a brand new startup this year. And we had a very successful Invisalign party in the spring. And we had a very successful promo period we did for Invisalign. And that really helped. Plus, Invisalign, for the first time ever that I'm aware of, they did double points during a certain window where we had a lot of cases. So we were basically getting double points for each case. So
I didn't know that.
They do promotions where they give you like 1.5 times the Invisalign points for a certain, and they're doing one right now, but I had never seen the double. So basically they did this big promo trying to push people to close cases and start, approved clin checks and whatnot. So all those things contributed. And we hit it, and we like barely hit it, but it was amazing. We were so happy to get to that status. But then, as soon as we hit it, everything resets and we're back at 0. So it's like hit the mountain peak, and then all of a sudden the next day you wake up and you're back on ground 0. So how do we then reset our goal and go right back up that mountain to at least, maintain that Diamond Pro status? And you talk about your why. Why is it important to us that we maintain that status? Well, one reason is when we hit Diamond Pro, we found out we were the only dental office for both GPs and orthodontists in all of the Tampa area to hit the Diamond Pro status. So we we were officially the number one Invisalign provider in the Tampa Bay region.
After only being open for 2 years.
3 years. But
3 years, okay.
Part of it is we want to maintain that stat. We, and it's possible somebody else hits that status, this last 6 months, but we want to do everything we can to kind of maintain our status as the top Invisalign provider in the Tampa area. We take pride in that. Another reason is because the better your status, the lower your lab bill. As you get in the higher tiers, it only does very small incremental, decreases in lab bill, but still, I want the lowest lab bill we can get so we can offer the best discounts possible with still maintaining some decent margins on them. So that's part of the goal too, is I want to maintain that discount for the next 6 months. Whatever we get this 6 months, that's our discount the next 6 months. So I want to maintain that discount we got previous 6 months, this 6 months. So anyways, you start out the 6 months in the middle of summer, slowest time of the year, usually July, August are slowest times of the year. Less Invisalign cases than we normally start. We were running some promotions, which helped a little bit. We go into our Invisalign party in October, which usually is not quite as successful as the spring one, which we do around tax time. Our Invisalign party gets sandwiched directly between two hurricanes, major hurricanes. So, my office was shut down the week before and the week after our Invisalign party. Thankfully, it straddled those two hurricanes and we were still able to have it. But it definitely left an impact. We had a lot of people saying, oh, I can't move forward with Invisalign right now. I just had some damage from the hurricane, whatever it was. Still a very successful Invisalign day, but, not quite. The previous Invisalign party, I think we closed 52 cases. This Invisalign party, I believe we closed like 40, maybe 38. So not quite as successful as the last time. Then you go into, November, we're getting close to the holidays and everything else. And we've got a pretty big uphill climb to maintain that status. But I never took my eye off the ball. So the entire time I knew where we were at, where we had to get, and I was very strategic with how we were going to get there. So in addition to the Invisalign party, we had our Black Friday Invisalign sale where we did half off Invisalign. I did a bunch of ads on Instagram, video ads, printed ads. We talked to patients about it. We motivated the team with it. And then, as we're getting into December, I'm watching us get closer and closer and closer. And then all of a sudden it gets to the point where, I can see we're very close, but I also know Christmas is on a Wednesday this year. New Year's Day is on a Wednesday. My general offices are basically closed those last, 2 weeks, week and a half of the year, whatever it is. So we've got very little opportunity left. So we are essentially in the last full week of the year, and we're getting very close, but we're not quite there yet. So this is where I am really trying to build up my team. I'm trying to get my teams excited to close Invisalign cases. I'm letting them know how close we are and, reminding them how important it is to try to maintain that status. They know that they get extra bonuses with more Invisalign that we do. So they're motivated to close cases as well. But then I do something even further and I say, you know what? For the next 3 days, for the rest of this week, we'll offer a discount on top of our half off. So basically the lowest price, lowest profit margin that we've ever offered Invisalign for at $29.95. Next couple days, you can offer it to anybody at that price. You can follow up with anybody at that price. It took 1 day and they closed the 7 cases we needed. And now they're all sitting in our Invisalign ClinCheck just waiting to be approved. And that should put us at maintaining our status. So again, guys, moral of the story is you've got to set goals early. You've got to be intentional. You've got to be consistent. You've got to measure things. You've got to track things. You've got to measure KPIs. You've got to know where you stand and where you've got to go to get to your goal. And then you've got to think outside the box as you get near that finishing. And here's the thing, guys, any of you guys listening, I'm sure some of you can relate. It gets close to the holidays. Everyone's got Christmas on their minds. They've got holidays on their minds. They've got shopping, Christmas music. Everyone just kind of has that Friday kind of feeling where they want to kind of ease up. People maybe don't want to work quite as hard. They're ready for a break. So how do you change that mindset and motivate them and kind of let them know, listen, guys, this is our last opportunity to kind of hit our Invisalign goal, our production goals. We've, instead of easing off the gas, we've got to put out the pedal to the floor and we've got to go harder than ever to make up for the fact that we're closed most of the next 2 weeks. So
there's actually a third component to this. I think it's really important. So I think a lot of this kind of is anti like normal dental culture, right? So like one is me and you both love to be ranked on a scoreboard. We want to know where we are and where the top is. Like, I mean, I'm always like, who's the biggest marketing company in dental? Who's providing more ROI than I am? How do I get there? I want to know. I want to know how far the gap is, how much more harder I got to work, how much more faster I got to move, right? A couple years ago, I had an idea about setting up a Facebook group for our clients and like ranking the top 10 on a few metrics publicly. And some docs like, oh, I don't want people to know where I'm at, or I don't want to know where I'm at in relation to someone else. And I think like there's a group we dealt with, remain nameless. They're in the Northeast, and they're like, we are the very best. And they're telling me all these things. And I was looking at their numbers, and then another doc that we both know who will remain nameless because they'll give away the group. I don't want to do that. This doc was doing like 4 times what they're doing. Then I was like, well, I actually have the doc 2 miles from you that's here. So that means the potential in your market is this. So you're actually underachieving by this. And we could get there. And I'll tell you the plan on how to get there. And it was like, they'd rather not know, right? Where me and you would rather know. We'd rather know, right? I think there's something too, like, and I always say this, you know, there's all these metrics, right? For like 90% of people fail Navy SEAL training. 90% of people don't become Green Berets. 90% of people don't make it to the NBA. 90% of people don't make it to the NFL. 90% of small businesses fail. And the question is, are all these things that impossible or that hard? Or do 90% of people just suck, right? So I take on the confidence of I'm being entered into a race where 90% of people can't find the finish line. My confidence is very different then, right? And I want to know where I am in the race. I think, Andrew, when you're talking about your goals, and Invisalign goal is a great one, is you're watching as you're running the race. And you're saying, okay, we're at the 10-yard line. The conditions are this. What is the strategy now to achieve the mission at all costs, right? And you go, okay, well, we contact these 7 patients. We maybe give away 1 case for quantity. We get to maintain that we're the number 1 provider in Tampa, and we hit our status again. Where some docs, because they don't know where they are in the race and they're not tracking that and they don't want to know where they are, they don't know that they were that close to actually being it. There might be 5 dental practices in Tampa that only missed that status that you got by like 3 cases, but they're not paying attention to the race.
No, I think that's a great point. I think ignorance is bliss for some people, and I get it. You know, sometimes it's hard to know the truth and to face the facts, but I believe knowledge is power, and I believe what you measure improves. And I believe when you set goals and you actually pay attention to them, you're a lot more likely to achieve them. So, you know, one of our year-long goals, you know, obviously a lot of offices set production goals, and we had kind of individual ones at each office. And I also had one for our entire group. So last year, so 2024, my group did about $4.7 million in collections. And that was 2 offices. So we opened 2 more offices right at the end of January of 2024. So basically they were open for February was their first really month open. It's like January 28th and 29th we opened. So we added 2 brand new startups with 11 extra months, plus our other 2 offices that were kind of growing. And so I had set in my mind, okay, 4.7, if we can do 9 this year. So about just under double what we had done last year. That was kind of the goal that I had set for our group collectively. And actually we were kind of right on pace. And unfortunately, as I had mentioned previously, we had the worst hurricane year that the Tampa area has had in a very long time. And we had 2 out of 3 weeks, we had to shut the practices down. The 1 week, it was literally all practices the entire week. And the other was for, you know, half the week or whatever. So we basically lost like almost half of a month of production at all 4 offices. And I think, you know, when those things happen, a lot of people will just kind of, you know, we couldn't do it because this happened. You know, it's we go to that excuse and we almost like feel like we've got an out now. You know, now that this happened, there's no way that we're going to hit this lofty goal that we had set. Now we're way behind and we only have a couple months, you know, left. How are we going to do it? And so, but you know, that wasn't my mentality. My mentality was, how can we make up for that lost production and how can we get there? And so like we went extra hard at unscheduled treatment with patients that had insurance benefits remaining this year. We went extra hard with our Black Friday sales. For one of my implant offices, I actually helped the team and together with the treatment coordinator, we sent text messages to like 300 implant consults that didn't move forward this year, offering them extra discounts, over the Black Friday period if they had put in their implant surgery deposits before, a certain date in December. So it was like anything I could think of was like, how can we overcome this obstacle that we had and still hit that goal that we had set? And so as we wrap up here, we're about halfway through December, but we are through the bulk of December in that, the offices are closed a lot around the holidays. We're currently at right around 8.75 million. So we've got about a half a month with about 250,000 to clear. And actually, technically, we're going to have 6 offices because we've got one that just opened and we've got one that's, opening next week. So we've got a handful of days at each of these 6 offices. And I'm looking at the schedule and I'm thinking about, what can we do to maximize collection on the days that we're open to try to hit that goal? And you know what? We might not get there. That is some ground to make up with the Christmas holidays. But I'll tell you what, I'm not going to go down, looking like if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging. I'm going to do everything in my power, and I'm going to try to motivate my team to do everything in their power so that we can hit our end of the year goal that we set, previously, despite the hand that we were dealt this year. So
I think so. You're coming down to the goal of trying to hit your revenue goal and your Invisalign goals, right? And if I think about it, if we go into next year, right, I say, hey, do you remember this time period? You're going to remember this with fondness. You remember this with excitement. For me, when things get this hard and this tough, and we're on the 10-yard line, and it's time to really get in the fight and find that's when I get the most excited, because that's when you do something remarkable and you surprise yourself, right? These are the moments you remember in owning your business. You don't remember that every day. You remember like we opened 6 practices or 5 or 4, whatever it was, 3 of them simultaneously. We hit Invisalign status and we hit all of our revenue goals all at once. Do you remember when we did that? Like, most people can't do one of these things. We did all 3 post-election during a Christmas. Like, we beat the odds and found the intestinal fortitude to make it happen. That is the time that you build your self-value and you look back and you're excited about what you did with you and your team. The hard moments are the moments you celebrate for time that you remember.
I completely agree. And I think it really does build grit. When you, it's resourcefulness, guys. It's no matter what you face, you're going to find a solution, to kind of get there. And again, at the end of the day, we're not all going to hit all of our goals. I don't hit all my goals I set every single year. It doesn't happen, but we've got to give it our best effort. And then I'll tell you what, like if we fall a little short of this goal, it's not going to change anything with my goal setting for next year. So, I'm not going to lower, my expectations. I'm not going to lower my goal for next year. I'm not going to go at it any less hard. If anything, not hitting my goal is going to motivate me that much more to surpass my goals for next year. So, it adds fuel to the fire. So, it's not getting down on yourself when you don't get where you wanted to be, but it's doing everything within reason, within your power, everything you can possibly do and think of to motivate yourself and your team to hit your goals. And then again, if you hit them, celebrate, but then you got to move on and set the next goal. And if you don't, use that as extra fire to set your next goals and get after them. So, I mean, that's pretty much it, guys. Again, you're going to be listening to this in, probably early January 2025. This was kind of my mindset as we wrapped up, December 2024. And I think this is good food for thought, both as you're setting goals for, this coming year for 2025. And then also this might be something to revisit as you get towards the end of next year, as you get close to hitting your goals. How do you dig deep? How do you find that drive? Whether it's increasing marketing budget, running specials for Black Friday. And again, everything's intentional. But if I wasn't measuring, if I wasn't checking consistently to see where we were at and how far we had to go and what our monthly average has been so far and how much we had to average, and I do this for everything. So you've got to have your finger on the pulse consistently to know where you have to pivot if you want to, hit the goals that you set. So,
all right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for Dental Unfiltered. I'm Matthew Brown. This is Andrew Vallo. Please like, subscribe, and share. We do not get paid for this. There's no sponsors. This is just something we believe the dental community needs, and we both enjoy talking to you guys. If you see us at dental events, please walk up to us and say hi. We love to talk to you guys. You're all awesome. Thank you so much, guys, and have a great day.